Hello everybody, I'm Domovex. You know what time it is that time of the week, but unfortunately for me, I am running on juice. And I must say, I just got back from vacation, spending time with family and family friends in Florida. I had a very fun time with my dad, brother, mom, and everybody else. But the thing is, I will just say that sometimes when you catch a hurricane, a very powerful hurricane at that, things tend to get a bit dicey. Now, glad no one was sort of harmed or anything in the incident, so I'm happy about that. Happy everyone's safe. But I am dealing with a little bit of jet lag. A little bit. By little bit, I just mean I am running on fumes, but I still wanted to get this all out to you guys before the start of the day tomorrow. Now, the first thing is we have a very big elephant in the room, which is the DC versus Amalgam Omnibus apparently destroyed. This is from a Bleeding Cool article saying that they needed to redo this specific omnibus because of a couple of misprints. I have reached out to 3 different people and have heard from multiple sources, all varying in whatever they're saying. Now, I will tell you what I do know. As of this recording, which is on the 12th of October, Pacific Standard Time, this omnibus has not been delayed yet by DC. The fact that we are still getting this omnibus out with all the workings, the reprints, the rights, and the back and forth between the different companies, we are getting this omnibus. That is for certain. To what extent the delay is going to be pushed, I actually have no idea, because again, at the time of this recording, it is coming out on the same delayed date that I talked about in an earlier video when I discussed the first, second, and third DC versus Marvel omnibus delays. So those 2 omnibuses obviously are not going to be coming out on the same day now. It is a weird reworking of this entire set. We're not getting those reprints of the issues that people have been talking about. Now, granted, we don't know the full details, but what I will tell you is that the source that reached out to Bleeding Cool is incorrect. The omnibus hasn't been destroyed, but again, what we do factually know that's out there in the public is that this is still coming out on the 31st of December, so stay tuned for future updates. Next up, we got a couple of uploads and changes to the Penguin Random House system. This may be factually incorrect because these were all pulled from Penguin Random House, and I'll get a chance to explain some of these later. The first of which was a DC All-In Saga hardcover, but I'll be covering that when it actually does get re-uploaded, because they did that with Rebirth, where they reprinted the issue and put it out in a hardcover. They're going to do the same for All-In, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But the first is that we have a Green Lantern by Rob Venditti Omnibus Volume 1. Again, Volume 1, so this is going to be the New 52 stuff that follows right after Jeff Johns and right before the entire universe gets reshifted again with Rebirth. 856 pages for $100. Again, this did get pulled down from Penguin Random House, and it wasn't part of the catalog, so we will definitely get to see a release date update for this at some point. We'll let you guys know on that. But what we do know, again, is that this omnibus somehow does exist in the wild. The printing information, all that is out there. They're probably still reworking the contract details and the incentives for the creators who are on this book, including Billy Tan and Robert Venditti himself and everyone else who's worked on this. So this is going to be interesting to see. Obviously, this is not the run that people want. People want the Rebirth run, but if a Volume 1, Volume 2 is what we're going to get, that is what we will have to deal with. Up next, we got the Jonah Hex All-Star Western Omnibus hardcover, which collects the entirety of the New 52 run. This is not the start of the Jonah Hex line. Now, Palmiotti actually did talk about this on Twitter, saying that he was very confused by it, which is weird because DC has been asking creators if they could print some of their stuff so they could get royalties and incentives and all of that. So this is probably going to get pulled in once they work that all out. I can't imagine they wouldn't go to Palmiotti for this. Honestly, if I was Palmiotti and Justin Gray, what I would do is say, hey, can you print some of our older stuff right before the Flashpoint happened? But this is what we do have, 125 pages coming out in whenever it's going to come out, because again, it all did get pulled down from Penguin Random House, so we'll have to see what the details are in for this specifically, but this is what we will deal with for Jonah Hex. And another shift, and this is going to be a renumbering. This is Nightwing by Dan Watters, and if you guys haven't yet, please go check out my interview with Dan Watters. Very excited for this brand new era of Nightwing, something that I've been wishing for the last 2 years or so now. So $29.99, $19.99, but this is now a volume 1 instead of a volume 8. They originally had this at a volume 8, so they are going to be renumbering for number 1 for people who might be trying to get into Nightwing in the year 2025. Next up, we got Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka Omnibus. Now, this is specific. This is going to now just be Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka Omnibus instead of being a Volume 1. A lot of people are questioning if the Volume 2 would collect his Rebirth run, which is issues 1 through 25, which, hey, I would buy it. I know you all would. But the thing is, you want to be marketable as much as possible, and they removed that specific detail because the runs are 10 years apart. Pre-Infinite Crisis Wonder Woman is not going to be the same experience as the reworkings of Wonder Woman's origin, as well as her place in the DC Universe after Wally West and everyone else came back in the post-Flashpoint era of DC Comics. So I specifically doubt that a Volume 2 would do well in that regard. It's probably going to be doing a lot better if it were Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka Rebirth Omnibus hardcover instead of Greg Rucka Wonder Woman Volume 2. Same contents and everything. It's just, again, the Volume 1 has been dropped. Obviously, the cover hasn't been updated, but by this point in 2025, we're going to be getting the DC Bullet logo. This is all going to be different. I don't know if they're going to keep the same cover. They probably won't. They actually have had the propensity, whatever the word is, because my brain is muddled. They will probably change the cover like they did for plenty of omnibuses, including Scalp, which I'll get to in this video later. But again, Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka Omnibus now coming out next year instead of being a Volume 1 and Volume 2 set. Next, we got all the release date update delays and all that fun, the first of which is Infinity Watch number 1. This is now coming out on the 11th of December instead of the 4th of December of this year. Alright, we got a couple of release date updates for certain issues, the first of which is Deadpool Team Up issues 4 and 5, which are the last 2 issues of Deadpool being drawn by Rob Liefeld, his final take on Wade Wilson and the character of Deadpool. Now coming out for the issues 4 and 5. Issue 4 is now coming out on the 11th of December instead of the 27th of November. And the 5th issue is now coming out next year on the 22nd of January instead of the 11th of December. Up next, we got Wolverine Revenge by Jonathan Hickman and Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo taking a little bit of time on these issues. We saw this with the Assad Ribic Aliens versus Avengers issues that have been pushed back in their due case. This is now coming out on the 25th. So hey, Christmas time for all you folks will be a 4th issue of Wolverine Revenge, and the 19th of February will be the 5th issue of Wolverine Revenge, which ends and concludes this miniseries. Up next is What If Into the Multiverse issues, well, this is the Omnibus Volume 2, coming out now on the 10th of December instead of the 19th of November. Next up, we got Star Wars Legends, the Empire Omnibus Volume 3, now coming out on the 7th of January of next year instead of the 10th of December of this year. Last but not least, I Hate the Wolverine Omnibus hardcover, now coming out on the 17th of December instead of the 26th of November for all of you folks looking for this specific event in omnibus format. Of course, the amazing Alex Ross cover for I Hate the Wolverine. Next, we got Silver Surfer Omnibus Volume 1 hardcover, new printing. This is now coming out on the 13th of May of next year instead of the 3rd of June of next year. So a push forward with this, and all fun and games here and without. Now, here is another big elephant in the room that I would like to talk about. So there are two elephants in the room that we are going to be talking about today. The first of which is this is going to be the end of Chip Zdarsky's run on Batman. I remember when the news broke out that Chip Zdarsky was going to be taking over Batman, that DC had somehow been able to pull Chip away from Marvel, away from Daredevil, and etc. to say, hey, we'd like you to be the voice for Bruce Wayne for this specific book. It was not only an opportunity for me to get back into DC, see what they were doing in the fall, because I wasn't completely sold on Infinite Frontier, although I had read some of the issues and number ones and new launching on points for certain series. It was an opportunity for me to say, this is a writer that I'm loving. He was my favorite writer in comics then. Obviously, Chip Zdarsky, great friend of the channel, of Nearman Condition, I should say. I wish I was a great friend of his. Batman is going to be pushed back a decent amount. And if you see the numbers there on your screen, we have a lot of inconsistencies as far as what's coming out when and what's coming out now. This was supposed to be a bi-weekly series of, hey, this is Batman's Rogues, and they're all being drawn by different artists. You had Gian Domenico. Is it D. Gian Domenico? It's D. Gian Domenico on issue 154, Jorge Fornes on issue 155, Tony S. Daniel on 156, who was filling in for Wonder Woman when Absolute Power was coming about, and then issue 157 with Jorge Jimenez and Tony S. Daniel working together both there. The one thing I have to say specifically about this specific run is not only Chip Zdarsky leaving prematurely, I want to say, I feel like a lot of his ideas were there. He had a great voice for Bruce. I adored the voice that he gave to Batman and Bruce Wayne. I think he just gets the voice. It's just that the plots and some of the threads, well, you probably heard about the complaints before. But I feel so bad because I was so hyped in for this run. And now we're getting a brand new creative team. And that is Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, yes, the Jeff Loeb who wrote Batman Hush, and the Jim Lee, the president of DC Comics, who also drew Batman Hush. So the writer and illustrator of Batman Hush are going to be the new creative team come next year in March. We will probably know more about this at New York Comic Con. I have a lot of things to say about the creative team, specifically the writer for this book and his stuff on Batman, but I won't relay that here to stay 100% professional. But what I will say is that if this is indeed the end of Chip Zdarsky's time on Batman, I will say that for the last 8 years that I have been reading your work, Chip, I have been mesmerized by the worlds that you've created, the characters that you've written, the funny Howard the Duck stories, and that spectacular run on Daredevil that helped me through the pandemic. I will forever be in your debt, and best of luck to you wherever you go. Next up, we got Batman 89 Echoes hardcover. This is now coming out on the 17th of June of next year instead of the 18th of March of next year. Actually kind of unfortunate because this issue series, this 6-issue series, has been dealing with the same delay problems that plagued the first Batman 89 series. And it's a beautiful looking book. I will say, I haven't read the new series, but that is what we're getting for Batman 89 Echoes. Up next, we got Milestone Compendium 4, now being pushed to the 17th of June instead of the 18th of March of next year. There are going to be 2 more compendiums. This is going to be the first, and then Volume 5 will probably wrap it up depending on the mapping. So for all of you folks who are looking for the Milestone Compendiums, this may take a while to be solicited formally amongst DC catalogs, so keep an eye out for that. And next up, we got Green Lantern by my favorite artist, Patrick Gleason, Fernando Pasarin, who took over after Gleason did full work on Batman and Robin, and Peter J. Tomasi of currently Ghost Machine. Coming out now on the 19th of November instead of the 12th of November, so a week of a pushback, although Tomasi has confirmed on Twitter and Nearman Condition that he does indeed have the omnibus of this in his house, so he did get a copy. And I actually want to know if Jason Aaron got a copy of his for Scalped Omnibus Volume 1, because that also got pushed to the same date, the 19th of November, as did the GLC Omni. So Scalped got pushed back. Hopefully we don't get any more pushes back on this. And next up, we got a couple of price point pages changes. I don't have the full whatever you want to call it, but Shazam Volume 2 Moving Day did get downsized to 136 pages. It is just a regular 6-issue comic, like 6-issue trade paperback. There's no oversized issues. Typically, when you get 1 through 6, you get a page bump up because the first issue is normally oversized. There are no oversized issues on here, hence the page downturn and price downturn to $17.99 USD. And last but not least, I do have some news, if you want to call it that, for Justice League by Scott Snyder. They did put down the price of the Justice League by Scott Snyder and James Tynion Omnibus Volume 1, the first of 3. I will say, though, $125 is a lot to be asking of people for 776 pages. So we will have to see if there are any more updates on this. Obviously, it's still going to be a decent while before we get this solicited. Actually, we should probably get this in the January 2025 catalog for next year's DC solicitations. But alas, I don't make the rules. Justice League is now at $125 instead of $150. So if that moves the needle for any of you guys, that is what we do have. And hopefully we get some more updates on that soon. All right, guys, if you want to check out the brand new books that are coming out and track all of the stuff that I was just talking about in the video, head over to comicreleases.com, where we do have the most comprehensive and up-to-date spreadsheet, literally to the minute of this recording, of every single big book that you are tracking, whether it's a Finest, Epic Collection, Omnibus, Absolute. We have all of it, and we also have a Patreon at $2 a month. Helps us out, helps the server out. Check it out here. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching and bearing. I am really glad that I was able to put this video out. Also, hopefully you guys are all doing okay. I know that I've been off and about, but hopefully I can be a little bit more active and we can continue the road to 2,000 subscribers. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and like the video and smash that like button, please, 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 and subscribe if you haven't. Click on that notification bell so you know every single time I upload and talk about whatever news and updates and delays come out from all the comic books that you're reading, singles, trades, hardcovers. I got it all for you. That's going to be it for me. I'm Dom of X, comicrelease.com assistant editor. You be you. Take care. Dominate the day wherever you are.